One of the things you always talk about is that we're in a daily battle with human nature.
Yeah, it's it's a struggle every day. Dr. Lair for a long time has, been an incredible resource and has really allowed me to go there and speak to him. He gave me a line, and I really thought about this, and it really kind of took me back. He said, what you do in your job and what you're asking your players to do is not normal. It's not normal for these guys to have to get up, go to class, individual workouts, practice, study hall, tutors, travel, get back at 2 o'clock, be back up. There's nothing normal about what you do. And if you're not doing something that's normal and it's abnormal, and you want abnormal results, you better start acting abnormally. And to me, acting abnormal is the understanding that in human nature, we're lazy, we're selfish, we're self-centered, we care about ourselves. Think about today, every single one of you, maybe not every single, most of you, at some point, lunch is gonna break. And you're gonna sit up there and you're gonna be in this dilemma saying, you know what, I really shouldn't take the chips, but you know what? I'm gonna have the chips. You know what, there's a piece of cake. I probably, shouldn't do that, but I'm gonna have a little cake. What the heck, I'm gonna work out tomorrow. We're in those kind of battles every single day. The alarm clock goes off. Maybe just a half hour longer. I maybe hit the snooze button. But we're always in a battle of our human nature, our selfishness. And Dr. Lair talks a lot about, conserving energy and not giving energy out. And you're in a constant battle. And I really believe that your life can be really, really, really fulfilling when you battle those human nature and those things that we all battle each and every day. How well do we eat? Do we exercise? Do we become do we have an awareness of this battle that goes on every single day? For us as coaches, as people, as players, there's just that battle that goes on. And you've got to wake up every morning with, I think, a mentality that I'm going to battle this human nature thing. Because if I allow human nature to win, I'm never going to really be able to reach my potential. And am I prepared to do that? In every area of my life. And I'd like to go home, and I've been on the road for a little bit, and, my wife wants to go to a movie. I really probably don't want to go to a movie, but you know what? That's probably good for my marriage, or I get home and I'm tired, and, my kids want to do some shooting, you know what I mean? So I got to battle those things. Now, I do think there is obviously time to rest and rejuvenate and recharge. I think we all need that. I'm not saying that. But there's times there where it's very, very easy to justify why we're doing what we're doing and why we deserve what we deserve. And I think if you can every morning wake up and say, I'm going to battle this human nature element that's not allowing me to be the best I can be. And I think the same thing comes into practice too, with your team. It's easy for guys to cut corners, or how long we're going to go, or, we're always in that battle, I think, every day.
And one of the things I think that Billy goes against human nature on is he's prepared to lose big in order to win big. Can you explain what that means?
I think when I was up with, I think it may have been, maybe Roland was up here when I first spoke, and he made an interesting comment. He says, your goal, as a team or as a coach is to try to get your team to maximize its ability. And I think a lot of times when you're coaching, if things are going okay and we're doing pretty good and everything's going great, that's another human element part where you sit there and say, okay, we're okay. But deep in your heart, your team could be up here, but you're here right now. And you're saying to yourself, okay, if I can get this one player to do this, or if I can get this guy to do this, or if I can change what we're doing offensively, if I can change this. But then the thought comes in your head, what if it doesn't work? Are we actually going to take a step back? And I've always believed as a coach that if your team can be up here and it's here, you've got to take the risk to try to take your team up here. So if you want to win at the highest level, or you want your team to be the best it can be, you've got to be prepared to make those decisions. And sometimes those decisions don't go well. And it may actually make you take a couple steps back. And you may say, geez, why did I do that? We're worse off than we just were. I'd like to get back where we were. But if the mentality is, I'm trying to make our team the best it can be, and I've got a well thought out plan of how I'm trying to do that, I may have to confront and address some things that relationship-wise could go the wrong way. But I think you've got to be, as a coach, a risk taker to do that to get your team to maximize its fullest ability.
And I think Billy is incredibly confrontational. But when I say that word, it might not necessarily mean what everyone perceives that word to mean. I think that he is on a quest to expose your players to the reality of the situation.
I think to Brett's thing, I'm extremely confrontational, and I think a lot of times people think that means yelling and screaming. It's the furthest thing from the truth. We've all been there as coaches. There's a big pink elephant in the room that we're hoping nobody really notices, you know, whether it's somebody on the staff or a player or whatever it may be. But you know there's an issue, there's a problem, there's a challenge. And I just believe that those things end up flowering into bigger problems. So I've always tried to confront whatever issue's there. And the confrontational part may be walking down to practice and seeing a guy that's just, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. And walking up into him and asking him, are you okay? Is there a problem? And he may say something that I may be like, wow, you know, now I gotta handle this. It could be.
Can I give one?
Sure.
This is excellent. Okay, so I love this story. So Billy had a player who went 2 for 11 and played 38 minutes. And this player got totally down on himself when he wasn't playing good. So 2 for 11 is not very good. So Billy walked in and he asked the player, how many shots did you miss last night? This was the next day. The player says 9. How long does it take for you to shoot a shot? The player was a little confused. He said about a second. How many minutes did you play? The player says 38. So let me get this straight. You allowed 9 seconds to affect the rest of the 37 minutes and 51 seconds you played. And that was all he had to say. And I think that would be a way that you confront the truth in a creative way that just grabs their spirit.
Well, you know, the one thing, and maybe we've got coaches from different sports, but when you're playing a sport with one ball, okay, outside in basketball, the point guard, who probably has the ball in his hands between 7 to 10% of his minutes, and the rest of the players have the ball less than 5% of their minutes being played. The game basketball, about 95% of the time, is played without the ball in your hands. And it's another thing, and I talk about it from a societal challenge, is because everything on the headlines in newspapers is who the leading scorer was or how many points did this guy score, that guy score, what happens is players play for that, and players get into that. And I get there's recognition, there's notoriety, there's those kind of things, but the reality is, and the truth is, that they're playing the game 95% of the time without the ball in their hand. And I think a lot of times players play their 95% hoping to get it back. You know, run around hoping that they're going to throw it to me again, you know what I mean? And they run back on defense, and I'm going to touch it again, you know what I mean? And the thing that was amazing was I had a young kid, and I every year I try to do this to break it down, but I had a young kid that I said to him, he played, I think, 25 minutes in the game, and I said to him, how long do you think you had the ball in your hands last night in the game? And he said to me, 15 minutes. And I was like, 15 minutes? Nobody had the ball 15 minutes. And it's just try to get them, you know, we had, in Florida, we always had 95% all over the gym, 95%, to get them to understand that the real value in playing is not how well you play with the ball. Now, the ball obviously is extremely important. How well you take care of it, how well you pass it, what are your shots like. I'm not diminishing that part of it, but there is running back in transition. There is blocking out. You know, there is help side defense. Okay, there is taking a charge. There is diving on the floor for a loose basketball. There is help. Okay, there is screening. Okay, there is trying to go offensive rebound. There's so many other things that go into impacting the outcome of the game. And so much of these guys are unable to play their 95% because they're so consumed with their 5%, and their 5% takes them to these incredible emotional highs and lows based on whether the ball goes in the basket. You ever see this when a guy makes a shot and they're running down the floor saying, come on? Like, how about like when you miss a shot, say, let's come on, you know? Like, It's interesting. So to Brett's point, I try to like expose the game of basketball for what it is and try to get them to see what the big picture is in the game. That making shots is going to come and go, but the things that you can actually have control over are the things you're having to do 95% of the time. Why not focus on being great at those things?